Hello everyone, this is Frozen My Fear. I am gonna bring you a video today about 4 simple tips I think aren't talked about enough in winning more games in League. Um, just give a little about myself. I'm starting this new website with a couple of friends. We're gonna be giving guide videos, review reveals. The website's called GameaholicsAnonymous.net. Please check it out. Give it some support. So this is gonna be the first of many videos to come. Hope I do a good job. First thing what I'm gonna talk about is the game I'm currently playing is League of Legends, which unfortunately I've been playing for many years now. So I hope I know what I'm talking about a little bit. But going on, I see videos all the time on the internet about play this champ, get better at CSing, do this, do this, do this in order to get higher in League of Legends. And while I agree with everything they say, I think that there's other aspects that go into the game that are missed and not talked about enough. So today I'm going to just give you a little presentation about things I don't feel like are explained well enough, and hopefully it just helps people start thinking about all the special things that take in order to increase your rank in League of Legends. And pretty much what happens when I started playing League about 2 years ago, and I was definitely low silver. And I've always been like pretty decent at video games, going to MLG events for StarCraft and like all this stuff. So I have this drive to be better. So this is season one I was silver, and then at the end of the season, I'm sorry, season two I was silver. That's when I started playing. And in season three I was high gold, and at the end of last season I was in my placements for diamond 3 times, and unfortunately I couldn't get to it. So this season, with the reset, I got placed down to plat 5, and I was in school all semester. So now that I'm out, I'm gonna definitely get the diamond this summer. But just gonna go over a couple things I've learned through my years of playing this game that hopefully help you. Alright, so the tips I'm going to talk to you today about mentality, team comp, item build, and one mistake can ruin it all kind of aspect. Alright, so get started. In school all semester, so now that I'm out, I'm going to definitely get the diamond this. Just going to go over a couple things I've learned through my years of playing this game that hopefully help you. Alright, so going on. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is mentality. Now, a lot of people will talk about this. They may say a lot of people will argue with you, but I'm a firm believer that you need to have a good mindset when playing this game. What I mean by that is you need to be fresh, be focused, be happy, not be in a bad mood. And why this matters is because if you go into a game and you're on a losing streak, you need to take a break. And people are going to say it doesn't affect you, it doesn't matter. Well, it most likely does, because any time in life, think about when you have a job, when you're at school, or anything. If you're in a bad mood, you don't learn as much, you don't get much work done. So my recommendation is just if you're ever in a bad mood, don't go into ranked. Play a casual, play a ARAM. Oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Play a casual, play a ARAM. Do something that isn't going to stress you out, because stress is the number one reason I believe put people in bad mood. And being stressed out, starting a new game of ranked, you're more likely to snap on someone. Say you're in champ select and someone just picks a wrong champion, just trolling you. You're more likely to respond to them, more likely to get yourself in trouble, and you're just more likely not to enjoy yourself, which is the purpose of playing League of Legends. So what I usually do is I ever get in a losing streak, because they're gonna happen. I mean, everyone goes through it. You have a bad few games, have a couple of AFKers or some people trolling. Just take a break. Take a 10-minute break, get a glass of water. I usually wash my face with cold water every couple hours just to kind of give me a re-energizing. Another thing I always do is I have a tendency to drink a lot of soda, so I try to drink more water. Just anything that's gonna make me feel better, because mentality and your mood have a great influence on the way you play. Just by your having a clear mind is always gonna be better than that. So the next point I wanted to talk about is team comp. Now this is where I'm gonna start talking about things I don't feel like are addressed enough. What I mean by team comp is something that I feel like most people below diamond level, even into diamond, don't understand. The number one mistake I see in ranked is you need to pick what your team needs, not what you want to play. Now, obviously, you need to have fun. You don't want to pick something that you don't normally do or something you're not good at. But and I'll explain to you by what you need to look for is like if your team has an AP top and AP mid, you probably shouldn't go an AP jungle, especially if you have two squishies. As a, say you have like a fucking um, I don't really know, a Kennen top and a Ari mid. You just lost that team comp already is not normally what suits the meta. So you should probably go someone AD-ish, tankier for jungle rather than going say Eve jungle, because just a team comp usually decides like 50% of the games, and I really believe that stat. Because just not picking the right team comp is really detrimental to your team. Another thing you need to look at is do you have enough CC, which is crowd control. Like if you pick a team that has all damage but no crowd control, even if you get a huge lead, even if you're winning a game, I mean, and the other team has like a Morgana and a Mumu or a Malphite or something like that, All it takes is their CC can outweigh the advantages you gain by your team comp. So you need, this is what I'm talking about, team comp. Now I'll explain that a little more on the next slide. And the last thing I think is important is can you siege or clear lanes depending on how the game goes. One of the biggest things I noticed is like someone picks a Nidalee mid, and then top lane will pick someone like what's a good example? Who can't siege? I'm having a blank right now. But it picks a champion that doesn't siege well either. So you get behind the mid, you guys just have a bad start, and if it goes wrong or something like that, and they take your first tier towers and they're starting to siege your lanes and siege your base. Well, if you don't have a champion that can siege lanes, it's going to take you longer to clear minions, which is going to allow them more time to get damage on your towers. See, this is stuff that you need to think about if you really want to take this game seriously and gain ELO, because if your team picking a champion between like say Ziggs and Nidalee mid, depending on how the game goes, that Ziggs pick could save you the game, because if they're sieging your tower and you're just constantly clearing waves, eventually what might happen is they're going to dive you without minions and take more damage. Instead of, if you have a Nidalee where you can't clear lane, they just do a little bit of damage to tower each wave and eventually clear down your tower and you get nothing out of it. So team comp is one of the most important things to making a team, and I can't stress that enough. I hope people learn that as they play this game more. So like what I meant by team comp is like what fits the meta. And I hate to say that. I know a lot of times it's okay. It's definitely okay to try stuff to try to break the meta and play whatever makes fun. But you need to pick things that are going to give your team the best chance of winning. And what I mean by that, usually you have your AD carry and support player. Your AD carry is obviously your main damage build, while your support is there to save the AD, give them support. Obviously, hence the name. So when you have that, this is the other three picks are usually where the changes happen. You usually have an AP mid, an AD/tank top, and a CC/tanky jungle. Well, that's usually the main meta team comp, because even if you get behind, even if you don't have a good start, having that essential like perfect fit team can win games. So say you were to lose lane, say your top lane lost lane, but you had a Shyvana top and a Jarvan jungle and your AD one lane. Well, even though your Jarvan top, I'm sorry, yeah, your Jarvan jungle and your Shyvana top lost lane, just having them built tanky and being able to still pill for your AD could still win you the game. But if you have, I don't know, say a Kennen top and like a Nidalee mid and like a Fiddle jungle, and everyone loses lane, I mean, that Fiddle jungle who relies on his ultimates and his damage being behind isn't going to be able to do anything for their AD, even if she's fed. So if you get into battle and they're able to get to your AD because your lanes aren't the right comp to protect her, you kind of ruin the game by picking the wrong champion. Like I said, obviously you want to have fun, pick the champions you're good at. Don't pick a champion that you'd never play just because it fits the comp. But you really need to consider team comp when you're picking your champions. I see it so many times where like first, second pick take mid and top, and they pick like a Vlad top and a Karthus mid. And it's like, all right, you have two AP champions, but you also have two kind of squishies. Vlad's a little tanky, but he's definitely not a true tank. You need to pick someone like Jarvan, Malphite, someone tanky jungle who can soak up the damage. And someone picks Eve, or they pick someone squishy who has a lot of damage but doesn't suit the team. So everyone gets fed. However, it doesn't matter because, you can't survive a battle long enough you can't survive past 5 seconds because you have no tank. Now, I'm not saying you can't win like this. Every game is winnable, no matter what the team comp is, but that is a huge factor in determining who's going to win the game. And a lot of people just don't seem to understand that. And I hope that as people play this game more and more, they're able to determine what champions they need to be picked in a role. That's why, even though people don't like it, sometimes you see the same comps over and over in LCS and League, like high level play, because, the right team comp is what's needed. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be there. Sorry about that. The next thing I want to talk about is items, because the next major problem I see in games is people go to websites like ProBuild.net and they see what the pros are building on champions, and then they copy their builds, which is perfectly fine. I mean, a lot of times if you don't do the math, you have to go to a site and figure out what items are best at the current meta, current patch, and all that stuff. The problem with this is you shouldn't know an item build for your character. You should have like a chain you want to probably go through in a game, but you should never have a set item build, because your item build should depend on what the other team comp is and how the game is going. And what I mean by that is, say for example you pick Darius top. Darius is a completely, burst them down, finish them through all, win lane hard, snowball kind of champion. Well, The problem with Darius is like a lot of times if you get behind, it's really hard to come back. And what I mean by that is like, so you go against someone in your lane, you make a mistake, you overextend, jungler kills you, your lane gets ahead, and you can't just like do your combo, finish them off at level 3 and get ahead. A lot of people they'll do is they'll happen that, and a lot of people with Darius build like double Dorans into complete damage, Last Whisper, all that kind of shit, just do damage. And they get like a tanky item second or third, like Sunfire Cape, and be tanky after their lead, which is the correct build to go if you're winning lane. However, if you're losing lane, normally the rule of thumb is for top lane is if you lose lane, you need to go defensive, because even though you're not going to have that damage output, you can still tank damage and peel for the other lanes, and hopefully they'll be able to do the damage. So a lot of times I see the mistake of where, say, your AD carry is completely fed. She's one lane completely. She can carry the game, but your top lane, which has just had a bad game, he's been camped, he's been carried by the enemy jungle and top laner, and it's 20 minutes in the game, and he has two Doran's Blade and a unfinished Hydra with a Chain Vest. So he gets in team fights, and he trying to do damage, but he gets focused down, he dies in 5 seconds, and then they just run onto your AD carry. Now, the correct way to play that match would have been get your Sunfire first, maybe get completely tanky to where, like in the team fights, even since you have your dot DPS and everything else, you could be able to still have a factor in the team comp. Now, people are like, well, I just feel like, that's not the correct build to go. It's like, you need to think after the laning phase, depending on when you win or lose, you need to base your build off that. If you can carry the game, that's great. Go offense, go damage. But you also have to look how your teammates do and how the other team is doing. And another thing about builds is like, if you're normally have this set build where you're like, okay, I'm going to build Dorans into Sunfire Cape into whatever. Well, if they have 3 APs, like an AP top, AP mid, and AP jungle, you probably need to prioritize MR. Get Merc Treads, maybe get like a Banshee's Veil or something like that. But you don't know how many games in Plat I've seen where people are. I can tell they're using Pro Build because they're like spot on with what Scar or I'm a Cutie Pie built on their champions, and they're building completely armor, and they have 4 AP champions on their team, and it makes no sense. You build early to win the lane, but if things go wrong and you lose lane, you need to build for the team fights, and people don't understand that. So when I say items, none of your builds should be set in stone. They shouldn't. They should depend on how your team doing, how you're doing, and how the enemy team is doing. I believe that the build depends completely how the first 15 minutes of the game goes. If you win, great. If you lose, you need to build for the team fights, and I hope people understand that. The last thing I want to talk about is probably the main problem I see in plat level gameplays. Learn how to finish or come back. And what I mean by that is there's so many times where I see a lane win, like completely dominate the lane. They get a gank, the AD gets 2 carries, the top lane gets kills the guy 2 times in 5 minutes, takes the tower at 10 minutes, and it's just completely dominated his lane. And then the laner will fucking, like the top laner will sit in lane, push this tier 2 tower, get camped because obviously he's win lane. He's overextended way past the jungler because the mid tower, tier 1 and tier bottom 1 tower are still there. And then every time they die, complain about why aren't you taking objectives? Well, the problem with that is even though you won lane, the other lanes might be even, or your other lanes might actually be behind. So the correct form is actually you need to start thinking about what I can do to get my other lanes ahead. What I mean by that is if you're top lane, you win your lane and you have TP, push your lane out, go run the dragon, start a 5v4 at dragon since you're fed, carry the fight, get dragon, get some kills, and if you need to, TP top and get back to the tower and defend it. By doing so, you get your other teammates farther ahead instead of just maybe throwing away your lead. And that's the biggest problem I see. I see lanes win and then they keep on pushing, don't rotate. Or I'll see teams get all tier 1 towers down at like 10 minutes, have like a 10 kill lead, and just walk around lanes and keep farming. You have to know how to finish games. And you have to know what the next thing is, the part of the game is. You need to get wards in their jungle. You need to have full map control. You need to eliminate their map control. Biggest mistake I've seen. I see people ward so much during the laning phase, but then when laning phase is over, they stop buying wards because they're not worrying about ganks. But they don't realize that map control at this part in the game is almost more important. And not just map control, but eliminating the other team's map control. Now, the next part, and not just finishing games, but you also need to know how to come back. And this is the hardest thing to teach people. I have had so many games where I've been down 5 kills to 20 at 15 minutes and everyone's spamming surrender, and then you come back. You make it come back little by little. You do you win 2 team fights, but you had that AD who sat in Fountain for 2 minutes spamming chat how mad he was, who didn't care. And because they didn't try, even though you had a chance of coming back, you still lose the game. I know it's frustrating when you lose lane. I know it's frustrating